Hi everyone. So we had started a live stream with MP Ruby Sahota, and then both of our audio got cut off. So I hope this time it works. But thank you for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. Um, I'm just gonna wait on her to join, and then hopefully we can resume our conversation. Other than that, as of now, my screen is acting normal. So if you have questions, hopefully they pop up. But what has been happening, if you didn't hear, is like my question bar completely goes away, the comment bar goes away, so I wouldn't be able to see it. But I will let everyone know if that happens again. So let's hope this time it works. Okay, so MP Sahota has joined. Do you see the request to? Okay, yes. Go live. I think it worked.
I requested you to start. Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Let's hope it stays that way.
I don't know what happened. It's just like in the middle of the conversation that the sound just cut out. Very weird.
Well, I mean, for people who are just joining or were with us, we were talking about, um, racism and what MP Sahoda's faced. But I heard the majority of what you said, and it's heartbreaking. But I hope it resonates with people that they're not alone when that happens to them, and see you faced it, but you still became so incredibly successful. And I also kind of want to add, in America, I have faced racism, as a Punjabi, as an Indian, and I live in a very predominantly white area. There's not much diversity where I live, but the racism was still present. So that is part of the reason I started my chapter of Dear Asian Youth. I want to, teach people about Asian culture, make it very inclusive. So hopefully, I don't think racism is going to completely go away, but hopefully it um, doesn't keep going to such large extents, because
Yeah.
for people to set your hair on fire, that is very, very far. And my mom's told me about it. She grew up in Canada, and she also mentioned that people would always say "Pocky" to her, and I just think people are very ignorant when it comes to things like that. But obviously, you are successful, and now they're probably looking at you saying, "Wow, we shouldn't have messed with her."
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't even think those women knew who it was, but absolutely. I think I think it could break you, of course, but sometimes it just makes your resolve stronger, and that, you want that you can be anything you want to be. And so, that's one of my motivations also as having this role, is to encourage others. And sometimes I forget the impact that me being in this position may have, but every now and then people like yourself and others remind me, and I forget, and I don't even realize that it does have an impact, right? You see somebody that looks like you, is from your culture, or a similar, think that, okay, if this person can do it. I've had people come up to say, wow, okay, after I saw that you did this, I also got into politics. And I recently had another politician say that to me, from another party, who got after me, that when she saw me, she thought, okay, maybe this is something. I hadn't had that on my mind. I've been thinking about it in politics, but it was seeing you that kind of took me over the edge and made me take that leap, and have faith in myself. So it's important. It's important for us, not just in politics, though, in every sector and every occupation, for us to be the best, you know, be the best you that you can be in what that role, and people will look up to you. People will see a role in that. So I think we should always do our best, and especially as minorities, as it shouldn't be this way, but we know that sometimes what we do uh, sometimes has an effect on our whole community. Right? So whether it's bad, the whole community gets labeled as, oh, okay, this is bad and it's like this. And this doesn't, it's something that happened to Caucasian. No one ever kind of generalizes the whole Caucasian race to be bad, good, and there's bad and successful. But it does happen to minority groups very much. So I, I'm just a strong advocate to be the best you that you can be, because when you're out there, you are the face of the community. If you do good things, if lead the way in some way, no matter what it is, and design, whatever it may be that you're passionate about, put your best foot forward, because you're representing, fortunately and unfortunately, the community.
Yeah, that was beautiful. You definitely are super, super powerful. I will say I've always wanted to be an attorney and go into law. And then I think it was almost exactly 2 years ago when I had met you. And I was like, wow, as a Canadian myself, I was just so inspired. And then I kind of like thought of, okay, maybe I can go into politics, because I do enjoy, writing policy, advocating, and the whole process. So you also inspired me to take that foot forward and, also think about politics, because it can be scary as a first thought, to somebody, but you are definitely making such a huge difference and paving the way. So thank you so, so much for that. And then I think
Well, first as well. So, I mean, that could be a natural progression. Doesn't have to be. I mean, nowadays you can go into politics really any kind of background, and they like that diversity. But I was always passionate, just like you're saying, about advocating. So the law was the choice for me, so that I could represent people in within the legal framework, and that just led me to politics eventually down the road.
that's amazing. Hopefully, anybody who's watching, you also know that, there's so many, I think there's so many different paths to politics. It doesn't, again, just like MP Sahota said, it doesn't have to be law or something. Some people, they're like, oh, I wanted to be a math teacher, and then I ended up in politics. It's like
Our
very, very different paths.
our prime minister, Justin Trudeau, was a teacher before getting into politics, and we've got scientists, we've got farmers and bus drivers, and all sorts of people backgrounds before getting into politics. And I think it's important to have that diversity of careers before getting into politics and experiences. So just like that physical diversity is important, of course, so that people can see them, see her to be her. I like that mantra very much, but you also have to have those different perspectives, right? Because not all South Asian women are going to think exactly the same, right? And there was a time where our cabinet had one woman, and they said, well, there you go, we've got diversity, got that one woman voice there, right? But now our cabinet has 50% women, and that's what you need for true diversity, because that cabinet, the one person doesn't represent gender. You're going to have cross-sectionality, you're going to have differences. All women think alike, all Indian people do not think alike. We need to work harder to strive to that true inclusivity.
Definitely, definitely. I'm very glad you said that, because I think it's super important. There's so many stereotypes, especially you would think that in 2021, there's, people are obviously learning more, but we need to, make the definition of diversity a little more clear. It's not just one person. One person can't make everything diverse. And the fact that so many different backgrounds are coming together, and I think it's just that everyone wants to make change. I think that's what's beautiful. But I think that does let me go into my next question. What message do you have for Asian youth, and specifically like Asian women who want to get into the political spectrum?
I know, like, you've got followers in the US as well as here. I think there's been Asians that have really been, have been coming onto the scene, especially with Kamala Harris now, as well as your vice president, and obviously many others that at least put their name forward. Some made it, some didn't. I know from various, from the Democrats or the Republicans, but it means there is an opening, there's a place. I know you've got some mayors there on the East Coast as well. You've got an attorney general. There's a whole bunch of representatives that I've been meeting within the political sphere from the U.S. that are Asian. So I would say find a mentor, especially for a young Asian woman. I think because there is still that lack of representation, it might be good for you to find that mentor, someone who's done it before, been in politics. That will really help you make your decision as to whether you want to get into politics or not. Work on a campaign. That's the first thing I would advise for a young person wanting to get into politics. You have to have some experience on a campaign. Going into it completely, and plus that getting into it, people are going to want to see what experience you have, right? And so that's important. And no job is too small in a campaign. When you get in, you got to be willing to just knock doors and do whatever, hand out flyers. Like that's where you start. And then there's no limits as to how involved you can get on a campaign, but even that experience is very valuable. And as the candidate, I mean, I do all of those things. Nothing is beneath me. I put up flyers. I knock every door I can. I make those calls too. It's not just the volunteers that do that stuff. The candidate has to be able to really roll up their sleeves and do all of that hard work as well. So you need to kind of see what that life is like. So do that. And that's the quickest way and easiest way, because no one says no to a volunteer on a campaign. They usually will say yes. So wherever you see your opening, whether it's the next and there's so many different elections that happen in America all the time, depending on what state you're in. And so you have a lot more elections there than even we do. But in Canada, if it's a municipal, federal, or provincial election, it's your time to get in. We may have a federal election coming up any day now. We just don't know. That's the word on the street, but we're waiting for confirmation on that. And so this may be a great opportunity for the Canadians that are listening to get on a Canadian campaign. We'll have campaigns, at least 3 or 4 in every riding, and in the 338 ridings across the country, because you'll have a campaign for each party, each candidate, right? And we have more than the two-party system here. We have several parties in Canada. However, in federal politics, only leaders from 2 parties have ever been elected, and that's the Liberal or the Conservative. But we do have other parties like the Green, the NDP, and the 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒕, and we've got a couple more popping up now too. So whatever is your fancy, go online, check out the different party platforms, and figure out where you align yourself. For the most part, you're never going to perfectly fit, and being a member of a party and being involved with the grassroots is important, because that's how you can sway that party as well. It's a challenge. Trust me, it's not just all about you saying something and it's going to happen, but you need to really work hard at being persuasive within that party if you want that party to, take a certain stance on an issue. So join the grassroots. That's what I would say.
For sure, for sure. And I don't know how the age range of our followers is, but I know for my group at least, I do want to say I don't think it's ever too young. You're never too young to start. I recently turned 16 and I've worked on campaigns. I just finished a program called Running Start, where we did a campaign simulation, and we had 3 weeks to do all of the behind the scenes. So it helped inform me a lot. I know what I'm going to be doing in the future if I go into this field. So yeah, I think what you can do, I don't know if there's stuff like this in Canada. Maybe you could help me out with that, MP Sahota, but I know in America, there's so many programs, where not always in the school, you kind of have to go out of school, search it up, make connections, but there are programs that teach you how to run campaigns, give you that confidence that you need. But yeah, I wonder if there's stuff like that in Canada.
We have student vote. We have a couple of programs that get you civically engaged. In terms of how to run a campaign, I don't know about that. We definitely have a really great women's organization as well that encourages female candidates to come forward. There's a lots of different organizations like that. That like Equal Voice is one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. So connect with Equal Voice if you're here in Canada. They're fantastic. Equal Voice is all about representing, having that gender balance and getting more women to run and change policies and all of that that sometimes create barriers for women to run. So they're always lobbying and advocating to change around policies, and so that parties can have more women candidates. And so there are some things, but I can send you some stuff that I think of if you send me a quick email after this. But we might not have as much as the US. So I think you need to just find out who's running in your local area, and you'll start seeing, I mean, the signs usually go up real quickly, and you can quickly find out on Elections Canada's website who the candidates are, and just call their campaign office or just walk in and say, I'm here to volunteer. Like, honestly, that's how easy it is to get your start into learning how to be a part of a campaign and how to run a campaign eventually. My executive assistant, that's what she did. She just walked in my 2015 campaign. She emailed and said, I'm interested in volunteering. She was kind of a volunteer that showed up once or twice a week originally. And then by the end of the campaign, she was there all the time, every day, and took on more and more roles. And I handed her more stuff because I could see that she was motivated. And then when we won, the very next day, we were out there just organizing, cleaning up the campaign office a little bit, kind of thinking what now, and she just approached me and said, I want to move to Ottawa. I want to be your assistant there, and I want a job in Ottawa. And I said, okay, let's do this. You're new, I'm new, we'll learn together, and let's do it. No one else had asked, so that's very important too. You got to be the person to ask, right? So put yourself out there. Contact people. It's so easy now on Twitter and Instagram and other places. You can connect and just ask people for some mentorship. Like, you might not be able to just get a job like that, but you gotta first show you're motivated. And especially in the world of politics, I think people don't generally get hired off the street. People get hired because they were a part of your campaign, and they're loyal, and they have the same vision as you, and that's really important when you want a really strong, trustworthy team around you.
That is so incredible. Thank you for saying that. I think there's a lot of different ways to, get into the political field, but some ways it's easier than others. My mom has always taught me, just make sure you ask. You can't just expect people to come to you. If you want something, you got to ask for it. So yeah, if I was in Canada, I'd definitely be wanting to work with you. But I'm glad that I could be talking to you. So I guess another question I have, as a woman, you've been working in politics for a while, but when you got married and have kids, did that impact you in a positive or negative way? And how do you balance professional life and taking care of your family?
Yeah, I mean, those were separate choices made at separate times, and so I was always interested in politics. And even my husband now, who I was seeing at the time, we used to love talking about politics, and I think we both were fairly interested. And I did a poli-sci degree, so of course I was surrounded by people who loved talking about politics all the time. But yeah, so I would say once you get into politics, I know that from people that I know, they have a more challenging time sometimes finding a partner. So sometimes that is what I've heard, that it's sometimes more difficult to find somebody after you've become a public figure, just because there's some challenges. Like we're surrounded by a lot of people, and you don't know if you've met this person in a genuine type of situation, or if it's for some other reasons, and if you really know each other well enough. So I think there's some challenges when you become a public figure in meeting somebody and being able to just be or for someone to just think of you just as Ruby rather than Ruby the MP, right? But I was, anyways, I was married a little bit before, and there have been some challenges. I had a very, very young son when I got into politics. I was like carrying him around, and when I in my first election, and so that was challenging. That was it was very hard decision to make. I felt like I had to kind of choose whether I was going to be an active participant in his life or whether I was going to go into politics, because people would kind of say that to you. If you go into politics, you won't be a good mom, you won't be a good parent. Why would you do this to your family? I got a lot of those kind of comments from people, which obviously you become very doubtful about doing it then, because people are saying some horrible things about what kind of parent you'll become if you're a public figure. Um, but I quickly realized, talking to my male colleagues, that none of them ever had anything like that said to them. Like nobody, no male politician ever is asked that or ever is told that they won't be a good father if they go into politics. I am seeing like more and more males take a step back sometimes because they know the political life, is all consuming sometimes and they can't spend enough time with their families. So I have seen people take a step back from politics that are men, which is, which is interesting. I don't think that used to happen before. So some of the gender roles are starting to shift and change a bit. And fathers are also wanting to be more active roles, play an active role in their child's life, more so than ever before. But, I took real, like, that was a real point of contention for me, that people felt like I couldn't be a parent and be in this role, because we need parents in this role. How are you going to make policies for young children and families if you have no experience with that from a mother's perspective, right? And most times when women got into politics, it was when they were much older and when their kids were either grown up or they didn't have kids. That was the general like female politician stereotype. It was an older woman with kids that have left the nest or never had been married and never had kids, right? So I think that needed to be changed a little bit. Now we do have some moms that, have given birth, while being a representative, while being a member of parliament. That's really important. We just got our first change table in the House of Commons in our parliament building just about a year ago, like baby change tables, like in a bathroom. That didn't exist in parliament because it was never seen as a place for children to be, or for women to really, quite frankly, be. Like, we didn't have a lot of women's bathrooms either. And I hear this about Congress as well, that there's very few women's bathrooms, and now they're starting to convert some of the male bathrooms into women's bathrooms because it just wasn't envisioned that women would be in that place. Um, so I would say it's a challenge, to answer your question, balancing, but you can do it. And the institution eventually, if there's enough of us, will see the need that they need to provide some of these things and need to provide supports for the people working within Parliament so that they can do their job and also have a family as well. At the same time, the Prime Minister had very young kids, and he was constantly on the campaign trail, and when he would carry his little one that was actually a little younger than mine, everyone would ooh and ah and go, oh, that's so cute, what a family man. And that's what politicians are always seen as, like, basically to be a male politician, you have to be married, you have to have kids, you have that whole, perfect family picture and all of that. But for women, it's a different expectation. They think if you have kids, you won't be able to do the job. It's very different. It's interesting.
Definitely. I think that, first of all, I think it's important to have a supporting spouse. I'm obviously not at the age where I'm in a relationship, but I do, you want to be with someone who supports you and who will stand with you. And there's just gender stereotypes, so much sexism, because I do know, like, even actresses, I feel like when a woman goes into a very prominent role, they are, receiving backlash, and people are saying, oh, you can't be a good wife, a good mom. And it is kind of upsetting, but it makes me so proud to know that somebody, from my culture, from my background, you were able to do that with a little baby. I mean, people can't even, I think you need to have the passion, because some people, even without kids or other stuff going on in their life, they just don't put in the time that they should, on their campaign and making sure that they're trying to make a difference. But you did it, and that's, hopefully women who are watching you see that.
And you got to just prove them wrong. I think that's the best way to change stereotype. Just keep proving them wrong. And obviously, everyone wants to be a good mom. And I think if they see that you can do it, then you're more likely to do it. And that whole stereotype will hopefully that expectation that somehow women can't be in these types of roles and also, have a family.
Yeah, that I was gonna ask about, like, did you see that you had to combat gender stereotypes, especially in the Asian culture? A lot of the time, I feel like girls are raised to say you just need to be a stay-at-home mom. Obviously, that is some people's choice, but I feel like young girls are told that you have to be a stay-at-home mom. You need to make sure you're taking care of your family. And you did speak on it a little bit, but did you have family members who also said that to you?
No, it was always I never had family members. It's a little bit surprising to me to hear that you may know people that are being told that at a young age to stay at home. I was never ever told that, so maybe that's why. It was always expected of me that I, you know, get an education for a reason, not for just to be a suitable wife, to have a career. And so driven in me, my parents both working people. My mom was always a working woman, and so was and that dynamic wasn't in my household. So maybe maybe I can't speak from that perspective, but I don't deny that that's probably very real, and it just surprises me that maybe in North that's still real in North America. I know that's real in other countries, but I think in some families, so it's just family to family and what they're traditionally used to, right? So if you have in your family a mom, a grandma, and all stayed home, I think in those families, the families that I know like that there's more of that 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 is what expected role in life. Right? So you got to do you. If that's what you want, that's what you want. You're gonna, householder slash mom is involved in children's lives, doing a lot of extracurricular with them. That's fine. That's fantastic. I advocate like people doing that. What you know they think they were. Um, that's their purpose in life, right? People all have their inner purpose in life. I think that that's your purpose in life, and then do that. But if you think you have another calling as well, don't figure out a way to make things happen. Because I think sometimes women were put in these given choices, like you can have this or that, like you can't have, and I'd also hesitate to say that people can have it all. You can't. I'm not saying you can have it all. Like there's challenges, things you have to let go and get people in your the extended family to help you out, and that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, because no, you can't by yourself do it all. But if you have a good support system, you can have it all, right? Like you can have all of those things in your life, those important things that are important to you. But for that, you'll also have to be accepting of support and help from other people, and I think if if you can create that support system around you, that's fantastic.
For sure. I wouldn't say that I see that happen a lot in North America. I don't doubt that it happens. It probably does. Maybe not as much as it used to,
Yeah.
but I do know in like countries like India, less progressive countries, I think that's where it may happen a lot. So
Yeah.
um, I think you just kind of have to, again, prove them wrong. Like people aren't always going to give things to you. You have to go out there and do these things yourself. I mean, with help of others, but you have to be the one to want it and initiated it. So I think you spoke on this quite a bit already, but do you have anything else? Like, how did you receive, well, not really receive, how did you gain this level of success given the gender gap? Because I'm surprised that they just added these things in. I mean, stuff are still happening now with people, trying to appreciate women more and realizing that women can be a part of politics. But um, do you have like any other words you have to say about like gaining this level of success given the gender gap?
I I've looked into this quite a bit. I toured the country on a committee business on electoral reform and on a few different democratic issues before that. I chair a committee that's procedure and House Affairs, and democratic institutions is a part of our mandate and what we look at. So I have looked at the stats showing electability, and there is no difference, Rhea. As long as a woman can get to the point where she can become the candidate, then stats are showing here that the population is willing to vote for women. So it's just getting to that point that is so challenging for most women. So that's the tough part. You know, there's nominations. There's oftentimes parties will, you know, gear women towards seats that are not really, you know, like where their party is not favorable, right? And so that woman is not likely to get elected. Then, if you keep putting women in seats that you don't think you're going to win, you got to put them in winnable seats, and then you will have that change. You'll have more women representatives. So that's really important. I think the parties need to take a lead on that. And in Canada, we have been seeing that change amongst many parties. They're all trying to now compete to get to a certain number of female candidates every election to show that they are, you know, open to working on getting that diversity in the House of Commons. But the only thing is we're seeing them still be put in some seats that are not favorable for that, you know, particular party. So we need to put women in winnable seats, and if you do that, they are more than capable of working hard, if not harder. And sometimes I would argue that they do have to work harder when it comes to a campaign, and then they will be successful. Fundraising, however, is a challenge sometimes. There's a real boys' network when it comes to fundraising. Also, I would say that men find it valuable to donate and contribute funds to political parties, whereas statistically, we're not seeing as many women that donate. So perhaps if your circle is, you know, of more women, that then becomes a challenge, right? Like most of my donors are men, and that is generally who I continue to get coming through the door to help me find gains. So anyways, we all need to change our thinking as women as well. We need to get involved. We need to work on campaigns. It can't just be the men in those campaign rooms, you know, or those rallies or those conventions. We need to be on those political convention floors, and we need to be at those fundraisers, right? Women are just as successful now, have really great careers, but sometimes they value maybe giving to different charities, but not necessarily contributing to political parties. But if we want to see more women elected, then we have to do all of that. So that's all important. I would say I haven't touched on those things, so I thought I'd throw that in. I know your question was a little bit more about as a representative probably having been elected, and once again, I would say that there are challenges, but there's also some opportunities we have as women right now, because when parties are working harder and governments are working harder to make sure there's some diversity at each committee table or within some portfolio, you might get those opportunities as well, right? It can get your foot through the, hopefully you being completely capable, and we have seen that. You know, a lot of our people were arguing when Prime Minister introduced the gender balanced cabinet that he was somehow not putting in the people that were the most worthy, and that was by far, like, so far from the truth. The women that were selected for cabinet were very worthy and very capable, and we have a very strong cabinet for that. So it was a little shocking, and I was talking to the Prime Minister about this just a little while ago too, and he was a little surprised that he was getting so many questions from the media on that. That's when he had said that famous, you know, response that came out where he said, you know, when people kept asking why a gender balanced cabinet, he was just like, because it's 2015, you know, like, and now it's 2021. So, but we're still kind of having to push the envelope, have these conversations so that people can really understand things from our perspective.
Thank you so much. I think that's very, very important for people to know. I think that everyone's going to get, trolls and hate comments no matter what they do, but it's good to know that, there's such a great change being brought in Canada. Um, so my next question, it's kind of like not very, it's a little bit off topic, but do you feel that you can speak on, like, if you feel like there's a difference in cultural upbringing from United States and Canada?
There is a US for some years as well, and I did my law school from the US as well. So there is a different culture. There definitely is. We share a lot of cinema, movies, pop culture, and all of that in common, of course. Um, so we have a lot of similarities, but there's a different political culture, I think. So our arts and that scene, I think, is a very similar culture, but our politics is very different. And even just now, Dr. Fauci, I think, was saying that the problem that is occurring with vaccination rates in the US is very different from the problem we have here, but it's much worse in the US. You're only at, I think, 50 something percent vaccinated there throughout the country, where we're hitting we're over 75% vaccinated here. And so he pointed to the fact that we didn't have polarized opinions on the matter from the different parties. All leaders were in favor of vaccinations. All leaders were in favor of, the what was coming out of the reports and the briefings from. There was no politician really going against the science that was coming out here in Canada. So there is a different political culture that we're growing up in. And I think people are most shocked about that when they have, not when you just come to Niagara Falls and other things and come for a very, very short visit, but if you live here for a little bit, you'll see that there is that very big difference in political culture.
So I have one last question, and then I do see people putting some things in the chat. But my last question for you is, what is your why? You spoke on this a little bit, but what's that, like, thing that, is it I don't know how to word it, but, like, what is your why?
My why is because because I didn't want to wake up later on 20 years down the road going, what if? That is why. That is why I did this. Let's not have any what ifs. Let's not have regrets. So that's my why. No regrets.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm gonna remember that. I think everybody should remember that. I'm fairly young, but people are always saying you don't want to. Obviously, you don't want to regret anything, but you have a short life. You want to spend it making change as much as you can, and just go for it. I think you have to take risks sometimes. So I don't know if there are many questions in the chat. Some people are saying they do want to get in contact with you. I can post your email, but it is on her profile. It is on MP Sahota's profile. Someone said something about the parent sponsorship. Can you see that?
Yeah, in September, there's another intake happening of the parent sponsorship program. 30,000 applicants will be selected from the pool of applications that were put in 2020. So that is that. Get in touch directly with my office if you want some more details. I can let you know, but it's good. It's going to definitely increase your chances of being selected, since it's going to be from that same pool and other people are not being added in. And each year we'll continue to select more and more. This is a all-time high number. We went from previously it being 5,000, 10,000, and 30,000 is the largest draw that we've done yet for grandparent sponsorship program. So that'll be in September.
I do think there are some questions that are like a little bit more personal. So again, I will say just email MP Sahota's office. Obviously, you're very responsive. I did this because I sent a message. So yeah, she's very approachable, obviously. So email her and ask any questions that you may have. I don't know if there are any more questions. So I don't want to take any more of your time.
Thank you, Rhea. I really appreciate putting this together. And I'm glad that we were able to really, chat, touch base, and get to know each other a little bit better. I definitely want to get to know you even more. Seems like you're a very impressive young lady who's doing a lot of different things at the age of 16. I feel like you're going to be definitely making a name for yourself in the future. I know to keep my eye out for you because you're probably way ahead of the game than where I was at 16. So keep at it, keep working hard, believe in yourself, and keep encouraging others around you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to remember that. And hopefully next time I'm in Canada, I will get to meet you. By the way, have you heard of like stuff with the border opening yet?
Yeah, you can visit starting August 9th, so just a few days away. August 9th is the date for Americans fully vaccinated. But you're Canadian, so you could have come anyways, but Americans will also be allowed to enter if they are fully vaccinated.
Good to know. But again, thank you so much. My heart is so full, and I'm so glad that I got to talk to you and learn about your experiences. Hopefully we'll be able to do something like this again in the future, but thank you so much for your time. I very, very much appreciate it.
Anytime. I'm so happy, and I can't wait to see you on the other side.
You too. All right, bye.
Bye.